Okay, well, why don't we get started? Welcome families and friends and students. My name is Don Scheller, and I'm the Executive Director of the 68th Center for Career Exploration. It is really a pleasure to have you here on such a beautiful day. I hope you're enjoying your time already in Williamstown. We wanted to get a quick sense of who's here today, so would anyone who's affiliated with a first-year student just raise your hand? Excellent. So that looks like most of the room. Sophomores? Great. Juniors? Seniors? Wonderful. Well, you are all welcome. I think you're all going to be in for a treat. What you'll learn today is a lot about a liberal arts career exploration journey. Now, the first thing I want to assure you is most students, most of the time, over 95%, have a plan within 6 months of graduation. So we can just sort of let the stress around, will my student get a job, sort of that air out of the balloon right away. The challenge, however, is really the process of discernment. So you may have noted we're called the 68th Center for Career Exploration. You'll hear themes today like major rarely equals career. So we really want you to sit with what will your students' discernment process will be. You're going to hear some phenomenal pro tips as we go through our panel. We really want you to think about questions you might have. So you'll hear about internships, postgraduate jobs, graduate school. You'll hear about how we nurture career exploration across the 4 years, across the curriculum. You will have, hopefully, some ideas after listening to the panel. Probably most important will be some of the student comments, because that's going to be the lived experience and will probably relate best to your student. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Janine Oliver, who's our Director of Career Exploration. Janine has been here just over a year now, and she has been building an absolutely terrific career exploration process. So with that, Janine, why don't you get us started?
Thanks. Oh, dear. If I do this, is this work? Yep. Awesome, great. I'm Janine Oliver. I'm the Director of Career Education, which means that I oversee the advising team at the Career Center and also a really amazing team of peer advisors. I think that I will keep it brief because I am probably painful to listen to, and I'll let some of my colleagues pick up some of the other pieces. One of the things to keep in mind is that students don't need to know anything about what they want to do or even what questions they have in order to engage with us. We love to help them formulate their first questions, to get to know them, to help them get to know the process. And so part of that is that our team of career advisors each focuses on certain industry clusters, and I specifically am focused on students who are interested in anything at any time at any stage. And so those students who are undecided or those students who are very decided can feel comfortable coming in and kind of voicing where they are and figuring out how to get to the best resource. And that's a really important part of our model. We think of ourselves as folks who meet students where they are, connect them to the best next resource for them, and can help them make the decisions that are best for them along the way. I'm going to pass it along to my colleague Lee, and I'm happy to chime in on questions when I'm the best person to answer them, but I will spare you my voice.
Can you guys hear me okay without the microphone? Oh, you need it for this. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm Lee Sylvia. I'm the Director of Operations and External Relations in the Career Center, and so what that means is that I oversee sort of the other side of the house, and the counterpart to Janine. One thing that I'll elaborate on for Janine, since she's losing her voice for us, is she just gave you a small little glimpse of the hard work the advising team does. So I'm just going to elaborate a little bit more on that and then talk about how the work and our space sort of complements that. With the advising work that's also being done, that's primarily through one-on-one appointments, but also there's a lot of programming elements that happen through our advising side of the house as well. So our advisors work to, Janine alluded to, industry sort of representation. They liaise to different industry areas and create alumni panels and workshops and skill building workshops around resume, cover letter, interviewing prep. So a lot of the hard skills associated with the job search. And of course, as Janine Janine alluded to, really helping with that even initial exploratory process. We want to meet with students from day one that they're here, and even if they're about to graduate, it's not too late. Still do come and see us, for all of you senior parents, because we really do want to meet students where they're at. So I wanted to elaborate a little bit on that for you. A couple of other things that come out of our office. One of the things that we oversee over in operations and external relations are employer relationships. So in a given year, where we have over, give or take, around 100 employer partners, and that's, say, not even including our job and internship fairs. If we're including that, maybe about 257 approximately employer partners that are working with us in a variety of ways. Those ways include physically coming to campus and having what we call information sessions. So that's where they're talking about their organizations, what their hiring looks like, jobs, internships, et cetera. A lot of that is alumni-led. You're going to hear a lot of talk about alumni, I'm sure, throughout the entire weekend, and how powerful that is for students. The power of the alumni network is strong and vast, and it really influences a lot of the work that we do in the Career Center, for sure. They're strong partners in a lot of the programming that we do. They fund internships, which I'll talk to you about in a second. And so it's just a wonderful resource for us to have access to. With that, we also have funding programs that come out of our office. So two main sources, something called a Career Access Fund, which is a way for students that are on financial aid, they can apply to get up to $500 to fund career-related expenses. So this could be anything from travel to interview attire, graduate school preparation, conference attendance. So those are just some examples of the types of things that we fund throughout the academic year. Also, in addition to that, we have something called the Alumni-Sponsored Internship Program, otherwise known as ASIP. And what this is that students who secure unpaid internships through the summer can apply to get up to $5,000 to fund that internship experience for them. As we talk about internships, one of the other things, and Jeanine, and I'll speak to this for you all too, is winter study, and you just wrote this down. So we have a number of winter study courses that run out of our office. One of the ones that I'll start with, seeing that we're talking about internships, is we have a Spec 21. It's a winter study internship course where students can go and get internship experience for course credit, but also we have a number of other brand new courses this year that Janine's team will be leading all around career exploration, tied to different industry areas. And so we have a full list of those that are, we're really excited to see how students engage with those this what'd you say? First years, yes, great for first years, especially, for those that are sort of really early on into the decision-making process around, like, exploration process, really, actually, around what options look like for them. A couple of other things that we're doing as far as career support. You'll hear us refer to possibly something called eFlink today, and what that is it's our community building platform. And so what it is we launched it. It's been live for about 5 years now. We have a little over 5,000 alums that have registered, and about 90% of the student population is actively enrolled. And what it is this a space for students and alums to connect with each other and build community. They can either connect one-on-one, so students can source people out, say, based off of location, identity, industry interests, et cetera. And as well as students can look for full-time and part-time and internship and short-term project work is also posted on eFlink. So again, another place to have that really close connection and ease of building the connection to alumni. And two other quick things I'll acknowledge. So you'll see on the handout, there's something that signals you to follow us on Instagram. So we would strongly encourage your students to do that, because that's where we're doing a lot of the communicating around the things that are happening in our office, and we wouldn't want them to miss out. But also we do a weekly newsletter that goes into all of their inboxes on Sundays. And so again, a great opportunity for them to learn about what we're doing. So, did I miss anything?
That was a lot.
Okay, that was a lot.
Great.
And so now I think we're turning it over to our panelists.
Yes.
Oh, all right.
All right. Well, first of all, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us here. I'm Jamie. I'm a senior and an economics major. I'm the finance and consulting peer advisor. So I'll briefly go over maybe how I got here, a couple of internships, what I've done with the Career Center, and also a bit of what I'm doing now, and you guys can fill in as needed. So I started my first year at Williams remote. If we think way back when, it was during the pandemic. I was halfway across the world in Shanghai, and the Career Center served as a really great touch point when I was trying to decide what I wanted to do. So one of my first real-world experiences in terms of a job was found through the winter study course over sophomore year when I was working with Mindera, which was started by an alumni. And so that was really great. From there, I sort of hopped around. I had the opportunity to work at Warner Brothers at one point for data analytics, and then I also worked at Accenture for technology consulting. And this past summer, I did an internship at Bain & Company in Boston, and that's where I'll be returning afterward. A big reason I enjoy consulting was because of the alumni network and hearing from the Career Center talk about what they did as well. And on campus, apart from being involved in the Career Center, I'm part of an a cappella group. I work with Alhambra, which is our pro bono student-led consulting group. And yeah, that's a bit about me.
Hello, my name is George Taylor. I'm a senior graduating next fall, so off cycle 24.5. For any first year, I know there's a lot of first year parents here. If your student has come to you and said, I have no idea what I want to do yet, that was me completely, both inside and outside of the classroom. I started off thinking I wanted to do computer science, quickly realized that wasn't the case. Then tried economics, and again, quickly realized that wasn't the case. I finally landed on becoming an English major, and that was my best decision, I think, at Williams so far. I found the coursework really engaging, and I think I took that approach to finding career opportunities as well. I produce music, love music, and my best job experience was working at a music technology company with an alum. And I remember my sophomore year making my first mixtape and spamming it out to every alum who worked in the music industry, thinking that I was gonna go, to LA and start something. But from there, I had some really great experiences and was able to connect with a lot of people. So a long way of saying for anyone out there, I would just recommend follow your passions, follow what excites you both in the classroom and outside the classroom, and trust that being at such a great university allows you to find other people who share that passion, and you may not know where it leads to.
Hi, I'm Angie, she, her. I'm from the class of 25, so I'm a junior. I'm majoring in history and psychology, as well as concentrating in Asian studies. And for the peer advisor role, I work under curriculum development and workshops. Outside of the peer advisor role, I work at the elementary school nearby, just behind Mission Park. I work with second graders, and they're so cute. This is my first year working with second graders. And I have recently started an education club for students interested in education. It's called SEE. If anybody's interested, let me know. And I don't know if you could tell by now, but I'm very interested in pursuing a career in education. And I think this kind of started before high school, maybe. I had always been interested in education because my mom had always been very invested in it. And yeah, I think the trajectory for me really started rolling after I took a Spec 21 internship at Reed Middle School. And for those of you who don't know what Spec 21 is, they're internships provided by the college. They're usually 4 weeks during winter study, and they're a great way for freshmen to gain some hands-on material or hands-on experience in fields that they haven't really, I guess, had a taste of yet. And besides that, I have worked, well, the Spec 21 internship was really fundamental for me because working at, I guess, a Title I school district really got the ball rolling for me, started to make me question why I was interested in education and the role that I could have within this field. I then went on to work at the U.S. Department of Education, realized that I did not want to work at the U.S. Department of Education. And yeah, I've just been kind of rolling from there. I don't really know exactly what I want to do yet, but I'm just kind of going with the flow. And that's just, yeah, a bit what I've been up to, so.
Wonderful. So now is the fun part. Hopefully this has whet your appetite for some more thinking around career exploration, how it works again in this liberal arts context. Here we are up in this remote town in this part of the state. How does this all happen? We'd love to hear any questions. I think we're a very candid and transparent crew, so anything that you'd like to know? And we might repeat your question just because we're taping today, so just
Should we do mic runs for that? Is that helpful? Should we have them speak into the mic? Yeah. Oh, you have a mic up there?
it's fine?
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
we may repeat the question then if needed. Yes,
I'll just
please.
ask George a little bit more about your career search, non-traditional. So how did you approach that, and what sort of internships or experiences have you had?
Yeah, so like I said, I was in a realm of study that wasn't going great for me. So it was hard to find connections both with alums and with other students who are really passionate about computer science and economics in some of these areas. From there, I went to the career office actually and spoke with Tonio Palmer just about anybody that he knew that was working in the music industry. He gave me a list of different names, and that's when I started the process of just putting it out there that here's something I'm interested in. I hear you are as well. How can we connect and talk about our shared interest? So very randomly one day, I got an email from a alum who started a new company in New York built around college music streaming. And from there, I was fully working in a startup, started out as an unpaid intern, but because I enjoyed it so much and was so passionate about the project, turned into a full-time position, and then spent a winter study, Spec 21, traveling across the country and again, having a really great experience. Where I sit now, I'm trying to put the pieces together, but when I go into job interviews, having that experience to lean on that I was really passionate about, that comes through, I think, in the interviews and gives me the opportunity as an English major to show that I can learn new technology, learn how to best fit in different teams, and create value in a lot of different situations.
So I think there were two themes, maybe many themes worth underscoring, but so the power of happenstance, right? George showed up, 90% of life, started working with Tonio Palmer. And the second theme is we are divided into 6 career advising areas. So these are loosely industry-based baskets. So if a student knows what they want to do, but it's really Janine who works with students who are undecided at this point. We really encourage students to begin at an undecided place. There is at Williams a lot of students who are on the pre-med or pre-health path at the very beginning of their education here until they take some of those really hard chemistry and biology courses, and that's fine as well. But we really encourage students to go through a thorough exploration just as their education is informing who they're going to become over time. So thanks, George, for sharing that. We'd love to hear some other questions. Yes.
I have a question about the winter study internship courses. How would a student go about finding those? Do they find their own and then come to you, or is there a list of them, like there would be for winter study courses? And then also, is there a limit on how many winters you can do this sort of thing? Do you have to spend a certain number of winters studying here, or can you do all 4, say, in an internship?
Sure. So the as far as the sourcing of the internships, it's both. So our office works to curate. Oh, thank you. That's nice. Our office works to curate partnerships with internship sponsors. And so students can apply, and they would apply and interview the same way that they would for an internship elsewhere, but they can apply directly to those employer partners, but also they can self-source their internships as well and then apply for the course. As far as, I'm trying to think what your other question was. Oh, how many they can do. So I think it's, what is the, for
First one
years,
needs to be on campus.
First one has to be on campus, but then after that, they can go off campus. So if they wanted to go home to their, to where they are in over January, they could find something there, or some students choose to travel, et cetera. So those are some of the main options.
So that Spec 21 course has come up a couple times. What size are we talking about? Is it a regular course where it's 6 students to 1 faculty member?
No, so we can take up to 150 students can get internship experiences. We would love for it to be more, and maybe someday, well, it will be higher than that, but at the moment, that's our cap.
On that same theme, when can you participate? As a freshman, can you participate in the Spec 21?
Yes. But those would, you would need to be locally for those experiences. Yep, but we do source, we have a number of local partners.
So as a first-year student, you can do almost everything. In fact, we really encourage first-year engagement. One of our goals is to engage with over 80% of the first-year class. So it's unlike the old days where as a senior, you kind of work your way into the Career Center. Oh, I need a job. It's now really, it's the moment of matriculation. And those students who do, it informs everything from major selection to this whole process of discernment that we were talking about. Do any of the students want to jump in on sort of the power or role of internships?
Yeah, I can talk about it. Thank you. So there are so many different types of internships provided by Spec. Like, it's kind of insane, and this is coming from somebody who did not have prior internship experience before taking the Spec 21 internships. So typically what the application requires is that you submit your resume. And for me, my resume was just high school experiences, but I think the interview and the cover letter is where you really shine. You kind of bring forward your intent to work in this certain place. And then your interview, that's all dependent on the student, but obviously the Career Center can help you prep for that. And in terms of the experience, it is what you make it. And I think for me, I briefly touched on this Spec 21 internship that I did at Reed Middle School in Pittsfield Public School District. It was very difficult for me, but it taught me a lot about how I would like to function in a classroom. And I guess the impacts that I would have liked, or the impacts that I would like to work in education or have in education. So yeah, there's a lot of different options out there. If you like, I don't know what Dawn has done with the internship spreadsheets, but they should be out, and I think they're past due already. So if your student hasn't signed up for internships, there's always next year. And if you really want an internship, you're most likely going to get it because there's just so much support surrounding that.
Sorry, just quickly echoing that winter study is truly such a good opportunity, especially here at Williams, because it really gives students 4 weeks without classes, especially for first years, to still be at the college, be surrounded by resources, but have time and not have the stress of a regular course load weighing them down during that time as well. And especially with the Spec 21 classes, a lot of them, almost all of them, I think, are offered by alums or people who are genuinely interested in working with Williams College students. And so that just offers another level of support. And my best piece of advice here would be that a lot of times you should really treat this as exploratory. So don't think, okay, I'm really interested in like finance and I only want to do a winter study internship if it's related to finance. Because a lot of times the paths are non-linear, and it's that experience and just being able to figure out what you like and what you don't like. And a lot of times knowing what you don't like, based on what we've talked about, is just as important, if not more so, than knowing like, oh, okay, I think I'm interested in this as well. So yeah, really make sure you treat this like as an exploration, and it's perfect, especially first years, sophomores.
Well said.
What is my voice?
Tell us a little bit about what's available to students interested in scientific research or scientific sciences.
We got you covered here, Jim. I'll start. So a short while ago, I mentioned there are 6 advisors that focus in these different industry buckets. So we have a STEM advisor who works very specifically. In fact, there was a great program, was it last night, Tech Careers? Exactly. So there's ongoing programs, there's daily advising, there's a smorgasbord of opportunities. So we do everything from career tracks, job shadowing, mentoring. We're giving you just a sampling. On your sheet, you got a few other ideas of the way those students can engage. So I would encourage your students, step 1, if they haven't, complete their profile on Handshake. Step 2, complete their profile on eFlink. Step 3, meet with an advisor, and that will be scheduled through Handshake. If you forget all of that, just let your student know to set up an appointment, and the advisor will go through the process. Really partner with them. We work on a very individual, one-on-one basis. We do a lot of group programming, but probably the single best strategy your student early and often could get in and actually start developing a relationship with one of the advisors. And students can sample multiple advisors. If they're interested in different industries, it's absolutely fine. And again, Janine would be a great starting point, particularly for younger students who are still kind of figuring out what they want to do.
Another thing to add to, as I'm reading, so we've come up with a system now. Janine's going to communicate with me on paper, and I'm going to translate. And so one thing she wanted to make sure that you all knew about is on-campus research opportunities. So there's an abundance of them, and so students can, certainly look into that with building partnerships either with, professors, but a great opportunity for them to get some experience.
Is it realistic for a student who plays a winter sport to do an internship during the winter study period?
Student should answer
Yeah.
that. Do you want to?
So I was a soccer player my first 2 years here, came in as a recruited athlete. I think an important part of the Spec 21 that we missed was that there's the option for students to kind of form their own program. So there is that opportunity for people who maybe have specific projects they're interested in to create a more tailored program that may match their schedule and fit it in. Obviously, I think too it's really important for a student to be communicating with either teammates or the coach about something they want to pursue, and just make sure to keep that dialogue going, because it definitely can feel like sometimes sports becomes the paramount driver of what you're doing, but since you only have 4 years, it's really important to make sure that you're taking advantage of other opportunities off the field as well.
I would say being a Division III school for everything except for, is it skiing is the only D1?
Squash, I believe.
Squash, maybe? Okay. So coaches understand the key is that your student communicates clearly. So if they're an in-season athlete and they need to go to New York to go to an interview, coach should really not be surprised by that, right? And so we coach and help students to have these type of professional conversations, and that would include with their own coaches. But we all work together as a team. Coaches get it. Students are here. Academics are first here, just to be really clear about that. But athletes do very well throughout the recruitment process for internships and jobs. And they've got a lot to talk about, too. They're out of the classroom experience.
Can you explain a little bit about the job shadow program, how that works, and also how frequent are job fairs, and how do you notify students so that they're aware of them?
Sure. So our job shadow program, so are you referring to what exists, what I maybe referenced you on eFling or yeah. So that's sort of a work in progress. We've tried a few different versions of that. So we've yet to kind of finesse the exact way we want that to run. We launched it right before COVID happened. So that kind of put a little wrench in things. And a virtual job shadow experience isn't as fun. So we are still looking to try to tweak that. As far as job fairs, so we've also tried a number of different versions of that pre and during COVID, and still where we're at now. And so what the system that we're at now is we just had our fall job and internship fair, which happened in September, and looking to plan something in the spring, still finessing what that looks like. In previous years, we've done a number of different meetups throughout the year based off of industry clusters. Pre-COVID, we did just sort of a formal fall job and internship fair, but that seems to be sort of one of the more staple things now that we're definitely back into having more on-campus events. Our fall job and internship fair this year, we had over 500 students attend, and over just about, I forget how many employers we had, about 70 employers. So it was, a really good start for us to actually come back in person, because that was the first in-person job fair we've had since COVID began.
You also asked how we communicate about them, and the answer is every single way.
Yes.
Put it everywhere we think students could possibly see it. We gave them ice cream sandwiches to hear from us about the upcoming job and internship fair.
Yes.
Skywriting.
Yes. Yeah, all of them.
So what is the time frame then for a student spring job and internship fair, or is that too late?
You're going to hear probably all of us repeat the same type of thing, which it depends as far as the timeline. I mean, so it really is industry focused. And, you know, and we see that also change every year. So some employers start hiring in early fall, even the end of summer for the following year. Well, then we also have some employers that are coming to us in May, you know, looking to still hire a student. So it really does kind of depend on interest areas.
So I would say it starts even before, because the interest areas are what takes the time, right? Again, there's so many choices and options. The job market is so good. The Williams brand is so hot. But it's really hard to figure out, okay, so I've got potentially 4 winter studies, 4 summers, working again with an advisor to think about a strategy. How much sampling can I do in my first couple years? How may I discover interests I don't even know that I have? What skills am I interested in developing by the time I'm a senior when I'm going to market? Am I going to go to graduate school before going to the employment market? So all those pieces fit into these conversations. And we really encourage students to do as many internships as possible. What does that mean? 86% of Williams undergrads do at least 1, 67% do 4 or more.
I had sort of a 2-part question for the health professions, the pre-med advising. I think I'd heard that there's an interim situation right now that you're, or no, you have a...
I've got a full-time person.
Yes.
Oh,
It's no longer me.
Okay, I was thinking, so not to put you on the spot. The other question is that it's just, the hospitals have really cracked down on who can actually get inside for clinical experiences, and I know that was a question asked last year, like what have you done to, it's not an easy, I know it's not an easy ask, so what have you done to deal with that, and how have you tried to support your Williams students to be able to get those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, we are hosting our winter study course. I think at this time last year, we had no idea whether we'd be able to for that season, but we'll be hosting it again. This winter study will place around 25, maybe 30 students locally and allow them to find local placements. We found that healthcare facilities are still really willing to take students. The timeline for getting paperwork done is sometimes a limiting factor, right? Having enough lead time to get all the vaccination evidence and all of the tests that they need in order to do that. But we can help students if they are looking for things that are local to them to pinpoint what are the right facilities, what's the right strategy for outreach to make that happen. And so lots of ways to line up shadowing for them specifically, and also some good local contacts. Our health professions advisor started this summer. You might know that health professions advisors write committee letters for just about their entire summer, and so now she's launching into thinking about the strategy for connecting with our local healthcare providers on a year-round basis, rather than just during winter study. And so that'll be something we'll be looking to do in the coming years to build out volunteering and shadowing opportunities that can be possible over the course of semesters and not just during winter study.
Do you want to mention the EMT course is back?
Yeah, and we've got an EMT course with a capacity for about 25 students that was taught last winter study and will be taught this winter study again, which is a great immersive experience on those skills. And many of those students continue to work in an EMT role afterwards, which is also, it's a different type of clinical experience, but it's tremendous clinical experience. And, you know, having worked with this year's applicant class, many of whom were hit hard by those COVID years where they really weren't in healthcare settings, I find that all of them have found really good creative ways to get different clinical experiences. And so we can help students based on kind of that background if they're struggling to find something that's a fit for them. There isn't a certain number of hours of clinical experience. Really, it's holistically figuring out the balance of service, which doesn't have to be and shouldn't necessarily be clinically related, clinical experience, research, and their academics that make them a full candidate. I don't know whether that directly answered your question, but.
I apologize, everyone. I have to run. There's no eloquent way of doing this, so thank you all for your time.
Yeah. Take care of your kids. All good.
You got FDS information.
Okay, got it. Wonderful. So we have a few more minutes for some more questions. Again, you have these wonderful students who are wisely able to share great and relevant experiences, and they also have observed how their classmates are navigating this process as well. So, looks like another question.
If anybody wants to answer this, how do you, I mean, I know your academic classes are so demanding, how did you make time for this, like for your career exploration?
Go for it. I mean,
it can be pretty brutal, especially right now being a senior in the midst of looking for a summer internship and having midterms as well. I would say using it as an opportunity to really teach you some lifelong time management skills and organization skills. Part of the value of being here is really getting thrown through the ringer in that regard. And so I think my biggest advice was to see it as an opportunity to grow, develop, start having experiences that people may not have until they're 30 years old, 40 years old, to have them early, fail, learn from them, and go from there. That would be my biggest advice.
yeah, just to reemphasize that, I don't know if you know this yet, Williams is a pretty stressful place at times. And I know it looks super nice and the weather's really good right now, but most of the times it's not like this. So as a result, I know obviously all of you love your kids very much, but as much as you're stressed, they're probably just as, if not more stressed. So like the best thing at this point is to just be understanding. We tell them about the resources at the Career Center all the time as well. How I navigated this was I really decided to treat this like a 5th course. So when I knew that I was really interested in recruiting, I would set a part-time on my calendar to just mark this as, okay, this is the time when I'm going to be emailing alums. If I saw newsletters from the Career Center about any firms visiting, I would try to make time to go just to listen. And also, a lot of times, we think of networking and finding jobs as this nebulous thing with like people who seem a lot older, when in reality, sometimes the best connections I made were people who were seniors when I was a freshman or a sophomore. And because they already went through the process and now they're already at the firms working when I was applying, so that's also a really easy way. Besides that, during the summer times as well, and winter study is a really great time to be prepping. And because I find Williams students tend to put a lot of pressure on themselves as well, being like around this environment creates this sort of motivation to also be trying your best. And I mean, we're all Williams students, I'm sure. Like, all of us have a lot of things going on at times, but it ends up working out in the end.
Can I grab that? So honestly, part of my answer to this question is sometimes they don't need to fit it in. They are people first, and then students after that, and after that somewhere comes their thoughts about careers. It is most important that they eat and sleep and take care of themselves and see friends, and those are gonna be really, really important things to keep them focused on. Not that the things you said weren't true also, but those are gonna be such important things that are gonna give them the energy for the other things. That said, I do think that sometimes meeting with us early can allay fears about things. It can take some of the stress off to be able to tell them, you know what, that's not that important right now. You don't need to stress about that. You don't need to have an internship every winter study and every summer. You can spend time exploring in different ways, because those are also things that employers out there in the world are looking for. They're looking for where your interests developed in all of the areas. Part of our job is helping translate those academic and extracurricular and life experiences as job-related skills. right? So it's not just through networking and through doing internships that these things are built, it's through all of life. And some of how students, my voice came back a little bit, cool. Some of how students, this was important. Some of how students develop that talk track about themselves and their ideas about what balance they need and what they want to explore is by living life and taking a step back and having a chance to reflect. You probably all know that when you go on vacation, you might come back to your job more refreshed and more creative and more able to engage in that. And I think that's the way with students as well that we need to emphasize. Angie, I want to give you a chance if you wanted to talk.
I fully agree with everything you said, Janine. I think for me, Jamie, you said you treated it as like a 5th course, but I think for me it was more like, if I want to do something, then I'm going to do it, and if I don't like doing it, then it's probably not for me in any shape or form. Just this previous summer, I didn't do an internship because I didn't want to. I decided to go to Korea and connect with some of my family members whom I had never met before, and I think that experience, it wasn't like an internship, it wasn't like a job at a big name company, but that has largely shaped who I am and how I operate within this world, and I don't know if I could have gotten that experience from working at an internship. And so I think just going forward, students should just take advantage of the opportunities that they have, but also in the sense that it doesn't have to be in the form of an internship. That's my 2 cents.
Yes, you've been waiting patiently. Thank you.
I really do appreciate the different perspectives you're all providing, but Jamie, I am curious, did you start this 5th class setting aside time your freshman year?
Absolutely not. My freshman year was me in a bedroom on Zoom for like 90% of the time. So if you think your first year experience was rough or your kid has no clue what's going on, I felt like I was still in high school. I started this probably during my sophomore spring, and I will say a major caveat in that finance and consulting recruiting starts earlier and earlier each year, which is something that I don't like, the Career Center doesn't love, and even people in the industry don't really love it either. It's just how it ends up happening. But it was during then when I was sort of at a crossroads between deciding whether I was interested in finance or in consulting. I tried to like finance, realized I didn't, did not try to force that, and so that was when I thought, okay, at this point, I've been working with Alhambra, with our student pro bono group. I was a partner there. I really liked doing that work. Then I decided I wanted to go all in, just because the recruiting for junior summer internships begins sophomore fall. And so during my junior fall. So during my sophomore spring, I started setting aside time to just talk with people, and then I really went into the preparation mode during the summer, when after I would do my internship, during my downtime, I would try to run some like practice interviews or sharpen up my resume or figure out which firms I wanted to apply to. And it sounds really intense, but again, like just to echo, none of this needs to be boring as well, because all of us have like classmates who are going through the same thing. So some of my like favorite memories from that summer have been like just hanging out with a friend and running interviews, and then just like kind of laughing at like how stressed we were, but it was all right because we were all going through it together. And so definitely like kicking things up during sophomore spring, but that doesn't happen for everybody. It depends, is the big answer.
Okay, unless there's any final questions, I'm going to ambush each of our panelists here and ask you a final question. Are you ready? Awesome. If your parents were sitting in the audience, what bit of advice would you want them to know to give you as a first-year student? Start any of you.
My dad's actually in the audience right now, which is super exciting for me. I have the tendency to overthink and be a lot more anxious about making sure I had everything in place. So I would want them to tell me to stress less and that things would end up working out. And they probably did tell me that, to their credit, but I didn't listen, so.
Yeah, just to echo the theme of the past few minutes, just have fun with it. Some of my best Williams memories have been with alumni that I've connected with just on a whim. Hearing stories about one guy who signed Lil Wayne to his first contract down in New Orleans, or someone who managed 50 Cent, and getting dinner with these guys and just hearing really cool stories. So again, to echo Angie's point, stress less, have fun with it, and really, as hard as you can, try to find that thing that gets you up in the morning going forward.
I don't know if this is something that I would advise my parents to do because they've already done this very well for me. They've put a lot of trust in me, which is something that I greatly appreciate because, I don't know, just like having their perspective and having that perspective support me in a way I think it influenced my ability to be independent and I guess have a lot of autonomy in terms of what I wanted to do and how I go about finding out what I wanted to do. So, yeah.
And then Janine, do you have a take-home wish for parents, families?
So one of the things that I tell your students is, so Don alluded to this theory of planned happenstance. It's about putting yourself in the right place in the right time and things magically happening, but you never know what the right place and right time is. And so I'd say the more that students can have non-stressful conversations about what they love, what they're good at, and what they value, the more likely it is that ideas come out of those conversations from the people they talk to, from you, from your friends, from your family. And so creating an atmosphere in which those exploratory conversations can happen, in which we try not to let worry seep in, but try to let that spirit of kind of exploration and curiosity seep in, I think the better folks are in the process. And I'd encourage students in general so I think exploring is better than being decided. And so the longer you can let yourself explore and sample and uncover other things without stressing too much about this fear of missing out, that there's a perfect thing you need to uncover, I think the better for students. Because when they get out there in the world, you know that the job they might have 5 years from now might not exist now, right? So the thing that you decide on now doesn't really mean that much. It means it's your next decision, not for your forever decision. And so I try to make the conversations take less pressure off of those decisions and put more emphasis on the curiosity and exploration.
Well, your voice held out for that, so that must have been important as well.
I guess so.
So I will just echo and add, all dreams are welcome here. Career paths are rarely linear. The first job after graduation is not going to be a career typically for most graduates. It's a value chain. And then finally, the bigger team students build around them, family, friends, faculty, staff, et cetera, the better off they're going to be. So career discernment, career exploration, it's a team sport. Here at Williams, we deeply care for one another. The alumni in EFLINC who want to invest in students because someone invested in them, they understand the Williams difference. You've heard we have the oldest alumni society in the country, and there's a reason why it has such strength, and these alums want to have a direct impact in the lives of current students. So my final bit of advice would be encourage your students to come in, meet a friendly advisor at the 68 Center, maybe a student advisor, maybe a professional advisor.
They're better.
Get to know people that can join their team. So with that, I wish you a wonderful Family Days weekend. Enjoy that amazing weather, and thanks so much for coming today.